when people think about spooky parts of the government, they often don't think about what I often thought was the spookiest part of the government, or at least I had no idea what they were really doing, was the Department of Energy. Are you willing to tackle that question?
Yeah, so I'll just say up front, I'll state my bias up front. I am a big proponent of the department and the work the department does across all facets of its activities. But I had the same experience in some ways. So I grew up in Western Washington State, Southwest Washington, Vancouver, Washington,
Oh,
just
where
outside.
uh, no, not Southwest. Southeast would be where the big lab is.
Yes, so I grew up in Southwest Washington and Vancouver, Washington, just outside of Portland, Oregon. And when I was growing up, was really when there was a lot of attention paid to the Hanford site in Eastern Washington, where the most of the plutonium work was done during the Manhattan Project, and we're still, cleaning it up and they're still dealing with that. And I had this similar experience when I was growing up the way it was treated, and I was obviously a kid, so I was just hearing things, I was reading what I could, but it was always like we don't know, nobody really knows what's going on out there, but we just know it's bad, right? It's dirty and
Yes.
it's nasty and it's related to nuclear weapons, so it can't be good. So it was a really interesting experience when I joined the department and went to
Yeah,
the
and
Pacific
that's the
Northwest
Department of
National Lab.
Energy.
And that was a Department of Energy project and a remarkable story of accomplishment during World War II. I used to take, so I worked in the Department of Energy's intelligence office, Office of Intelligence, Counterintelligence for many years. I was the chief of staff. My last job was the chief of staff, and I was handling all of our congressional engagements. I used to take staffers and members down quite frequently to Oak Ridge. And
Mm.
part of that is because it's an easy trip, just a couple hours. There's a just like 6:49 flight, something like that. You can do it in a day. It's a long day, but you can do it in a day. But one of the things they have down there is the graphite reactor, which was the place where they were actually producing plutonium for the first time during the Manhattan Project. The reason I mention it is because they were building something at a much, much larger scale, just a few months behind in timing out in Washington State. And the to produce the plutonium for the Nagasaki weapon, what became the Nagasaki weapon. And it's a remarkable accomplishment, but it was, done very quickly. I used to joke that in a way the department had if you could understand the department by breaking the budget into three pieces. One was the nuclear weapons program, one was the basic science research projects budget, and then the third is the recovery and cleanup on all the crazy stuff that we tried in the 40s and
Yeah,
50s,
right.
and actually even into the 60s. Um, but there was a reason why they tried to do those things, and there's a through line through the history of the department. Some of it's, admittedly complicated, especially the testing history. But it is true the department is not well known. Like, Reagan advocated to dissolve the Department of Energy. People don't understand necessarily what the work is. And there's a belief that there's more of a regulatory function than there actually is. There's almost no regulatory function to the
Aren't
Department of
they
Energy.
responsible for gas prices?
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember once when Stephen Chu was Secretary of Energy, he was asked in a hearing about gas prices. I think he made the mistake of saying, so, well, they probably should be higher if you actually looked at the market.
Oh,
But also is really not in his purview to have any sort of real influence on oil, directly, at least on oil prices. But it's the department has its legacy in the Manhattan Project, right? Um, the laboratories that were involved in creating the Manhattan Project, or the nuclear weapons and atomic weapons, as they said then, became the legacy sites. There's still so much of that that's focused. So much of the enterprise is still operating on Manhattan Project era facilities, which is pretty remarkable. I was just at a nuclear deterrence summit a couple weeks ago, and it was pretty remarkable how much of the conference was focused on finding, discussions of things like finding welders and electricians, not how do we bring artificial intelligence to the fore. There was a discussion of the latter, but a lot of it was focused on, how do you make up for the deferred maintenance bill that is literally decades and decades in the process. But, it was
I don't think I
intentionally,
want to hear this.
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it was all open. So I'm not giving anything away, but
I
it
know,
was,
no, it's like a little bit frightening that we have all
Yes.
this dangerous material
Where's a
like
welder?
in the
yeah, no, I
equivalent
mean,
of
at one
my
point,
20-year-old refrigerator.
especially at one point, it was a little bit tongue in cheek, but only a little bit. There's a remarkable DOE facility in Kansas City. It used to be called the Kansas City plant. Now it's called the National Security Campus, Kansas City. Um, and there's some work that they have anticipated in the future. They do the non-nuclear components of the nuclear weapons, manufacturing production of them. There's some work they have on the horizon, and they're literally now competing with the Kansas City Chiefs building a new stadium for craft workers.